Hey there, wonderful viewers. Welcome to Piete, our very first episode. I'm your host, Troy Collazo, and today we're going to talk about a topic that's very near and dear to my heart: the power of softness in overcoming people-pleasing. Now, to be radically honest, as we like to say, I am very much a recovering people-pleaser. I am not all the way there, but I'm making strides. And I used to say yes to everything. I put everyone's feelings above my own, and I thought that my role was to always be in support of other people. And that took its toll on me. I wasn't able to be my true, authentic self. There's a lot of information out there right now about how to overcome people-pleasing. I've noticed that a lot of it is very callous and tries to make you remove your compassion in order to overcome people-pleasing. So today I want to talk about a different approach. I want to talk about how you being your authentically soft and compassionate self is actually the way to overcome people-pleasing, not how to get rid of it. So if you're really interested, I will see you on the other side of the intro. So I want to talk about the disconnect that I've been having with a lot of the content around people-pleasing. What I've noticed is that there's been a horseshoe effect that's been happening with these content creators, where we're seeing an advocacy of a mirror of people-pleasing behavior. You know, instead of being selfless, people advocate being selfish. Instead of being there to serve everyone else, you are completely individualistic. And instead of being very gracious and very compassionate, you become very callous. And I think that's happening because the root of people-pleasing is not being addressed. And the root of people-pleasing is violence. When I say violence, I'm not just talking about physical violence, but I'm talking about when absoluteness meets immediacy. Those two factors eliminate the need for persuasion and communication. All of us as children experience a world defined by violence because we are utterly helpless and everyone else around us has power. As soon as we're babies, we recognize that our parents have power over us. And the first thing that we learn, and one of the only universals that every culture shares, is that of group loyalty. You learn that in order to survive, you need to have as many allies and as few enemies as possible. In normal development, you start to learn about how complex the world really is. You learn that there is ambiguity and that you are maturing and gaining power and having more of an impact on the world. So therefore, you don't have to interact with it the same way you did as a child. If you're a people pleaser as an adult, there was probably some events in your life that stunted your growth in some way. Something that kept you into this idea that you were not safe. And therefore, you still need to only focus on gaining allies and not having any foes. Because when we're very young, we learn that there are good people and bad people. And we learn that, when you are disciplined, when you're punished, you are cut off in some way from the protection of the community. When that's ingrained in you and you mix in whatever event stunted you, then this creates the catalyst for people-pleasing because you don't want to be kicked out of the community. You fear that so much, and that's where that anxiety comes in. And also, you only know that other people have power. You don't yet know that you have power. So you're trying to appease everyone, make sure everyone's on your side because you don't want them to hurt you. What people learn to do as people pleasers is what all children do, which is to manipulate. That's why children whine. That's why they placate. Because they don't have power, they have to convince you to do things in other ways. It's damaging as an adult. It damages your relationships. But that's the reason why it's happening. It's not, we say manipulative and it's like, well, am I a manipulative person? It's more complicated than that. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person, so to speak. Now that we laid the foundation for that, I wanted to get more into the mirror, the horseshoe effect that we're seeing in the discourse. If being people-pleasing is akin to being a child, I would say that what a lot of creators are advocating is a form of adolescence. In fact, some would even say, hey, like I'm a teenager again. If you're a people pleaser, it's very likely that you didn't have a very formative teenage experience for a number of reasons. You could have been a surrogate parent because of your parents' absence. You could have been bullied, and because of that, you were excluded from interacting with your peers. And you could have been a part of some sort of very strict, very rigid tradition, religious tradition, for example, that limited your options. So you're very scared to diverge as you were going through things like puberty and other formative experiences in your life. So I understand why this would be attractive and why it may even be necessary. You know, you have to become a teenager before you can become an adult. The thing is, it's not sustainable because adolescence is defined by ressentiment, a very deep-seated envy and resentment. It's operating from lack. When you're an adolescent, you're not saying, I'm an adult. You're saying, I'm not a child. You're saying, I'm owed something. And that response is understandable and it's necessary in the right context, but it's not the same as having a mature response to other people. In that stage of development, naturally, it's defined by a deficiency in empathy because you still have to gain knowledge of how the world interacts with you and finding your place in it. So because of that, you're very self-centered as a teenager. So when you're recreating that, you are simply switching out the self-centeredness of people-pleasing to another kind of self-centeredness. I'm advocating for is what I call naivete. Naivete just means to not know. If you, for example, are very individualistic and you say that, well, everyone else is individualistic just like me, so I'm just doing what everyone else is doing, you're putting intentions into people's heads that you don't know. And the same thing with people pleasing. You're always imagining what other people think instead of actually dealing with the fact that you can't, in most cases, know what people think. So first of all, in order to acknowledge the deficiencies in this adolescent view, it's important to recognize that you have a cap on your agency. You as an individual can only do so many things. All of us live in a society. We're not self-creating beings. It's important to also, with that, recognize interconnectedness, that you are irrevocably connected to other people, that your actions will always affect other people, and other people will always affect you. So, how do you embrace naivete? Well, first off, you would embrace what I call unconditional consideration. Caring for the other because it aligns with your values, not because of a reaction. A lot of times, we're hurt as people pleasers because we were nice to people and they were nice to us, and therefore, the natural reaction is to say, well, I'm going to be mean back. But the reason why you were kind is because you wanted a safe space. And that's still a valuable thing to create. And not everyone's going to respond the way we would like them to. But when we have a mission to create a kinder environment or a kinder community, then it's not dependent on anyone's reaction. It's only dependent upon our own character and our own values. Secondly, we would have emotional promiscuity. As people pleasers, we're very sensitive people. And to balance that out, a lot of us just try to lose our emotions. We try to stone up. You're probably, I'm just going to be frank with you, you're probably not that guy because there's a lot of coping mechanisms. Not everyone becomes a people pleaser. If you are a people pleaser, you're probably a very emotional, very sensitive, and very empathetic person. That's not necessarily something that you can control. It's oftentimes how you're born. The issue is not sensitivity, the issue is simplicity. There are hundreds of emotions. If you say, oh, well, I'm sad, and sadness encapsulates being a little bummed out, and depression, not going to be able to satiate that emotional feeling. You're just going to come up empty all the time. But when you're able to be very, very in touch with your emotions, when you're able to name them and say, well, I'm grieving, or I'm depressed, you're able to assign and see some of these emotions, they have ways to satiate them, different ways. Sometimes you can be off, but you just need to take a shower, or you need to eat, or you need to take a nap, or something. You will get to know your body more, and you'll get to know how you can care for yourself. Another aspect of emotional promiscuity is with your interactions with other people, to have a lot of them. A lot of the ways that we get hurt as people pleasers is we get so tied to other people because there's that fear. Are they going to get away? How do I make sure that this person doesn't leave? And a lot of times that can be because we don't have enough experience with relationships. When you just interact with people, you're just open with them, that can actually help you be less attached to people because you know that, hey, you have options. You'll have other experiences. You know how to talk to people. You know how to relate to them. And that's simply how you learn to do it, is by doing it. Last point I want to talk about is relativism. Everything is relative. Again, you cannot know people's intentions all the time. For example, I'm sensitive. So if someone's short with me, like if I'm like, hey, what's up? How you doing? And they're like, hi. I will take that personally. That's just who I am. But one way of growing with that is I don't know if that person has 6 kids and they kept them up all night. I don't know if their mother just died that morning. There's just so much that I don't know. Everything is relative to their experience. It's not just a one-to-one interaction. There's a lot of factors that are unseen. So no one knows the right answer. No one knows exactly who to be or how to be. By recognizing that there's no objective standard about how someone should behave or how someone should be, it frees you from that feeling of, am I doing something wrong all the time? Because you're probably not, because you're acting according to your community, according to your values. So first of all, I want to have some takeaways, a call to action, so to speak. I would say, first and foremost, just practice self-compassion. Forgive yourself. You did the best that you could, and you didn't have all the answers. None of us do. There's no rule book on being human, and the ones that exist aren't that good. So just stop giving yourself such a hard time, and try and know that, hey, from this moment on, I'm going to start moving forward. Secondly, start sharing your journey. The thing is, you're probably holding in a lot of emotion all the time because you don't want to annoy people, because some people probably were like, I don't want to hear all that. I don't want to hear your emotions. I don't want to hear this. Hey, that doesn't mean that you can't. I mean, listen, like, no boundaries. Like, don't just, dump all your problems on people. But it's natural to share emotions. It's natural to share when stuff is frustrating. And that doesn't mean you're going on and all about it, but you'll find that other people feel the same way. There's a lot of us out there, and if people knew that a lot more people have this experience, there'd probably be a lot less judgment and more tips on about how to make this work that weren't so callous. Finally, you have to find compassionate communities. And this isn't easy, but it takes, you have to sometimes leave whatever community, or at least venture outside of it to find this. But do some soft cottagecore stuff, Start painting. I started painting. It's a lot of fun. I put my emotions on that canvas, believe me. Go frolic in the fields. Like, do something that's romantic and engages your sensitivity and engages all that emotion that you're finding in, because you're gonna find other people doing the exact same thing. And you deserve it. And it's gonna feel weird. It's gonna feel so weird being understood and having people who respect you and respect your sensitivity. But that doesn't mean that you need to keep going back to those places that don't value you, who aren't going to appreciate your sensitivity. So remember, naivete is not about weakness, it's about strength. It's about the strength of emotions and the strength of softness. I think that if we really embraced it, we could have a lot better world. So that's all for today. This has been Piete with me, Troy Collazo. If you really like this video, share it, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you want to know when I'm uploading. And I will be uploading regularly. This is going to be my thing. So I will see you all next time. All right. Take care, y'all.